Now back to Ian Furness on 950 KJR AM. Also at 95.7 KJR FM HD2. Free on the iHeartRadio app. Play 950 KJR on your smart speakers. And streaming at sportsradiokjr.com.
Welcome back in. Ian Furness with you on a Friday afternoon on Sports Radio 950 KJR in the Carter Volkswagen studio. Carter Volkswagen, CarterVDub.com. And joining us right now on the Beacon Plumbing Hotline. And actually, I'll be honest with you, just because we might post a little bit of video. And I wish Kevin would have told me that. I might have, well, I wouldn't have shaved. I'm keeping the COVID beard going for a while. But joining us right now, the former voice of the Seattle Sounders, much beloved and missed madly by so many people out here in Seattle. Arlo White joins us right now. Arlo, first and foremost, how are you and yours? Everyone doing across the pond there?
Ian, great to talk to you, and hello to everybody in Seattle. Boy, I miss my favorite American city a lot still after all these years. Yeah, doing well. It's been a tough situation for everybody, and everyone's had their own way of getting through this. I believe I had COVID in the early weeks of lockdown. I haven't had an antibody test, but it knocked me out for a good 4 days. So I feel like I kind of got it out of the way. And then it's just been a case of killing time, hasn't it, over the past few weeks? Probably cooked more than ever, probably read more than ever, certainly watched more television than ever, but there is light at the end of the tunnel for all soccer fans and EPL fans.
And we're going to get into EPL and what that's going to look like, and I think it might provide us a little bit of a window into sports over on our side of the Atlantic as well, and I want to get into all that in a second. Let's get caught up a little bit with you first and foremost. So where are you living? What are you up to? Obviously EPL is in your world, but I know you got some MLS stuff, hopefully that comes across at some point as well, but where is Arlo White living, and what are you up to these days?
So I'm in the East Midlands, which is great, right in the middle of the country, very close to my birthplace of Leicester. Obviously, I'm a Leicester City fan, the team that won at 5,000 to 1 the Premier League, which it was just incredible to call that for NBC Sports. We are still, because we're going to finish this season, we are in the seventh season of doing Premier League. So we have 2 more years after this, and they're obviously going to look quite a lot different to what we expected, but we'll get onto that in a bit. So yeah, in terms of the day job, it's just phenomenal. I have the best job in the world. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. I love the Premier League. I love living in my country. I do miss living in the United States, but the next best thing is to broadcast to the United States. And I'm very fortunate that, before the lockdown, I get to do that 2 or 3 times every week. And we will be back in mid-June to do that again. But yes, there is another opportunity that came my way. Before my love affair with Seattle, I always had very strong Chicago links, lifelong Cubs fan, Bears fan. I have family there. I first visited there when at the age of 13. And the Chicago Fire are relaunching and moving back downtown to Soldier Field, and they asked me if I'd like to be involved. NBC were very kind, and they said, yes, you can do games for them, but as long as it's in the off season. So I was supposed to be there last weekend for my debut at Soldier Field. It obviously isn't happening. We may have to wait till 2021, but that is an exciting prospect, and I hope next summer, if I get to do 8 to 10 games, perhaps during the Premier League off season, I get to call a Fire against the Sounders game, maybe in Seattle. That would be something very special, odd, but very special.
I can only imagine. Arlo White joining us here this afternoon. All right, let's look at what's going on over with the EPL, the English Premier League. There's a restart coming. Take us back. When and how did things get shut down? How far into the season was the EPL as you guys get ready to resume?
Well, we were 29 or 30 games into a 38-game season, depending on which team you follow. I was at the last game, which was my own Leicester against Aston Villa. I did that game for the BBC. We were seeing and watching leagues lock down. I think the NBA had already gone at that point, but leagues around Europe were locking down, particularly Italy, that were hit very hard, and Spain as well. The Brits being as far away as we are from the mainland of Europe meant that it came to us slightly later. So that week, before the next weekend's games, the Arsenal manager, Mikel Arteta, tested positive for COVID-19. So that kind of sent shockwaves through the sport, through the country, and the very next day the Premier League shut things down. And there's been an ongoing debate from the knee-jerk reaction immediately, people saying, well, the null and void this season, let's just pretend it never happened. Generally speaking, Ian, they were fans that hated Liverpool Football Club because Liverpool are 25 points clear at the top, seeking a first title for 30 years. They are such a huge club. They've won Champions League. They are the current champions of Europe, but they haven't been champions of England for 30 years. It's absolutely incredible. And they've got, no team has ever had a 25-point lead at the top at any stage of a season. They need 2 more wins from their remaining 8 games to clinch this thing. And everything was put on pause. So obviously their rivals, Man United fans, Arsenal fans, Man City fans, Chelsea fans, null and void the season. We'll start again in September and we'll just pretend this never happened. Well, thankfully the Premier League stuck to their guns on this. And also there's a financial aspect to it as well, Ian, because they'd have to pay something like $1 billion back to the TV companies if they don't finish the season. So it was announced yesterday that June 17th is the comeback. The Bundesliga beat us to it because Germany are slightly ahead on the curve with this thing. And obviously it's behind closed doors. So it's been odd to see that spectacle, kind of eerie in a way, but superseded, in my view, by the fact we've got live soccer to watch at the weekends. So the Germans have done a great job. The Premier League have taken it obviously very seriously. I think outside of hospitals, Ian, training grounds or practice facilities, as you guys call them, would be the safest places to be in the country right now. In fact, they've done something like 2,700 tests, and I think the positive rate was something like 0.4%. So the players are feeling safe. They are feeling encouraged by that. It was voted that they could return to full contact training this week. And then, of course, all the Premier League teams and the owners got their heads together and decided that June the 17th is the relaunch. And there's 92 games left to play. And every single game is going to be on live in its own window. So it's going to be a jamboree of soccer this summer.
Arlo, I want to get to the testing and all that and the training and how that's going to look, because we're going to get close to right now the MLS, I'm sure, as you're aware of, they're doing some training, distance training and so forth. But I want to get back to that second. Let me go back to just where you are in the EPL, because it feels very much like where the NBA and the NHL were, in the sense that you were about, 2/3 of the season through.
Maybe 3/4.
Yeah, three-quarters, which is really close to what those two were. The difference is in the EPL, I believe, the regular season title is what it's all about. Liverpool is that's what they're playing for, whereas the NBA and the NHL, as you well know, it's about getting to the playoffs and then that second season. So they finish these games. What is the true, I guess, reason to come back besides the money for television? Liverpool is there. Why would they not just say, hey, you know what, Liverpool is a champ? Is it relegation? What comes into play here as far as EPL is concerned?
You're absolutely right, Ian. So there's 20 teams in the Premier League, 38 games, 3 points for a win, 1 point for a tie, and it's whoever's got the most points at the end of the season wins the thing. There are no playoffs. I know that is anathema to the American sporting fan. You can't quite get your head around it. And MLS do it as well. They've gone down the American route, one of the only leagues in the world to have a playoff and a sort of a Super Bowl, if you like, which is MLS Cup. So, you could argue that it's slightly anticlimactic, because Liverpool, in essence, could win after 32 games. So you've got 6 completely meaningless games, which is just like a victory parade for them. But there are so many more things to play for. So the top 4 teams in the Premier League then go the next season into the Champions League, which is the best teams from all the best leagues around Europe. So you're looking at playing the great teams from Italy, from Spain, from Germany, from France, Portugal. And that is a hugely prestigious tournament called the Champions League. So you've got the top 4 spots, and there's always a lot of excitement about who grabs those. My team, Leicester, happen to be in that top 4 spot at the moment. There are teams just outside, like Tottenham, big clubs, Manchester United on the outside looking in. So if they'd have frozen the season, Man United would have been, well, hold on, there's 8 games to go. 8, 16, there's 24 points to play for. We could have got in the Champions League, and it's worth an absolute fortune for clubs to be in that. So from that perspective, cancelling the season wouldn't have been very popular. But then you've got this bizarre system that we have called relegation. And again, American fans who don't follow the Premier League would not be able to wrap your head around it. It's like the worst 3 teams in Major League Baseball. So I don't know who they were last year. Maybe the Orioles would have been one of them. And you get relegated from the Major League into AAA. I mean, can you imagine that happening to a Major League team and the humiliation that would bring with it? But that happens. And there were clubs at the bottom, in the bottom 3 and around the bottom 3, who were very nervous. They wanted the season to be null and voided for obvious reasons, because it would have cost them millions and millions of pounds to get relegated. But they've been talked round. I think the major persuasive point was, well, listen, if we null and void the season, there won't be any money anyway. So there won't be a league. So we have to finish this thing. So the main excitement will be, I think Liverpool are going to seal the league very, very quickly. So then it's the top 4 spots, the Champions League spots, which are wide open, and then the dreaded trapdoor of relegation, which could provide a lot of excitement before the season ends.
Arlo White joining me here. Arlo, what is the reaction that you hear from players, managers, and those that, the team personnel about being back into training, being back in a facility? You mentioned that the testing rate, it's, less than 1% of people are testing positive. So, I mean, all those things, I'm assuming most are comfortable, but probably not all are comfortable. What are you hearing? Or is there any pushback at all from any of the players or the coaches?
Well, firstly, Ian, the managers are very keen. Their only frustration is they don't feel they've got enough time to get their players ready, and this will leave them slightly susceptible to niggling sorts of muscle injuries, because they won't have a full pre-season because they've been off so long. It's like they've had an off-season now. So the managers are unhappy about that, but by and large, the ones I've spoken to are just delighted to be back at the practice facility, delighted to feel the grass under their feet, and to get back. Although social distancing has been in the order of play so far, there's still banter flying around. The guys have got big smiles on their faces. Look, if you're in Manchester in January and you're from Portugal, Ian, it's not very pleasant. You've got that wind whipping up. You've got the rain driving into your face. At the moment, it's 80 degrees every day in England. So all the players are hopping, skipping into the training ground with renewed vigour, which has been great to see. There were 1 or 2 players that were nervous about it. Troy Deeney of Watford said he wasn't going to come back because he has a child that has breathing difficulties. He has since been talked around, I think, because he has been reassured by the testing rate and the positive rate and that sort of thing. He's seen how the training ground is set up, so he has got confidence in the system. And N'Golo Kanté, who's a World Cup winner with France, plays for Chelsea. He didn't want to come back either. And I'm very proud of the Premier League and also the media over here. It's no one has been hung out to dry because they were uneasy with it. The understanding is that everybody's situation and circumstance is completely different. So we can't judge and vilify players that don't want to or don't feel comfortable to come back. And on the opposite token, you can't then vilify or demonise players that do want to come back. And the vast majority of the players do want to come back. So they're all very excited about it. The full contact training has started. And now we've got a date. Everybody has something to aim for. And you could argue the rights and wrongs with people who are still, in effect, dying of coronavirus in our country, more than the rate in other European countries at the moment. And it's a deep and horrible tragedy. But from a purely sporting perspective and from a societal perspective and the boost that it will give to people and the safety with which the players and the confidence with which the players can go to work, there are no guarantees of their safety, but the Premier League couldn't do any more to keep them safe. I think this has given a lift to a lot of people. And come mid-June, it's going to feel like a World Cup, I think, with the sun shining outside, social distancing, lockdown being eased a little bit. And maybe we can have that communal experience in this country, and because it broadcasts around the world, that perhaps we've been missing for the last few months.
No fans, correct? No fans in the stands?
Correct.
Yeah.
Closed doors for the foreseeable future, yes.
With that being said, what have you learned, what have you seen, and what has you heard from your EPL brethren about watching the Germans and how it's gone for them? And does it seem strange? Does it seem like is it still like a fun atmosphere? I mean, all those things coming in, what have we learned from Germany so far?
Well, it was interesting because the German domestic broadcasters, I think, just leave it as it is. Maybe they film it slightly tighter, so we don't see the stands very often because obviously they're empty. But it's the soundtrack that's slightly odd. You're hearing the players shout at each other. And that makes me nervous about English players because there's a bit of fruity language that flies around here on a soccer field. So I'm going to have to make a few apologies, I think. And that's in the first 5 minutes of the first game. But you can hear the thud of the boot on the ball. You can hear the ripple of the net when a goal goes in, which is lovely, actually. But, football, every sport needs its fans. You know about soccer culture. Yep. You know the Sounders and the 60,000 crowds and the noise that they make and the Brougham end and it's bouncing and it's just phenomenal. And we'll miss that, but we'd rather have soccer back than no soccer at all. I'm interested in the German world feed that we get here in England. There is a choice apparently for broadcasters to have augmented crowd noise. And I believe Fox actually put that on for a few of the games last week. And it was interesting to see the reaction. Some people loved it. Other people hated it. It's certainly a conversation that we're having with the Premier League at NBC, whether we do add a little bit of crowd noise. My feeling is a little murmur without going crazy, little sort of FIFA game type murmur in the background would just take the eeriness out of the event. You're not hearing players' voices booming and echoing around large stadiums. So for me, I would add some crowd noise, but let's not put it over the top and try and pretend there's a crowd there. Let's just do it to take away a little bit of that echo, that eeriness about it. That would be my view, but those decisions are being made way above my pay grade.
I think for those, you and I can relate. I've done NBA Summer League games from Portland when the games were in Vegas over a monitor with just a headset on and a couple times no real audio, just all you hear is yourself and the analyst. It's hard to do, and it's hard for a broadcaster to kind of paint that picture and give you that like in stadium feel at times if there isn't a crowd. Same thing. I've done the same thing with Paralympics, and it's hard to do that. But the bottom line is we've got sports coming back. That's the best thing about this. I'll wrap it up with this, Arlo. Arlo White joining me. I just, as we kind of look ahead, and you kind of alluded to it, but I think we've talked about this here in our country as well. I hate the term "it's just sports" because so many people have their livelihood based on the sports, whether it's the guy behind the camera, shooting the game, the audio guy, the technical guys, or the people that work for the particular teams. And I think that's part of it. I think the other part of it, as you mentioned, is just a mental aspect of it as well. Mentally, how excited is your country to see soccer come back and the EPL come back? And what does it mean just emotionally to everybody?
It means so much. People are so attached to their teams. One of the challenges that we will have, and I hope people are responsible, that we can't have social gatherings. That's the whole point of playing behind closed doors. But Liverpool are about to win the title for the first time in 30 years. And the Merseyside, the Liverpool police have basically said today that they don't mind Liverpool playing at home, but people have to be disciplined. As much as they want to go crazy and celebrate and have that experience together, they've got to stay socially distant. They can't gather around Anfield, the ground, on the outside. It's pointless banning fans on the inside if 50,000 are going to gather and rub shoulders on the outside. So hopefully, and I'm confident that people will take this seriously, because if they don't, then the league shuts down again and we all go without for a longer period of time. So that's my hope. It means so much to communities. Football, they've always said it, it's the working class sport originally. It's the great distraction. And whatever's going on in the world, you could walk out of a factory, you could walk out of the office on a Saturday morning, you could walk down the road to the pub, you could meet your friends, you could have a pint of beer, and you could walk into the stadium, and for 90 minutes or 2 hours, you forget all your problems, and you're shouting at a referee, and you're singing songs, and you're getting on together, and you're celebrating great moments together. And that goes for whether there's a pandemic, whether there's a financial crash, whatever's going on in society. Sport plays that wonderful distractive role. And I don't think there's any more important time that certainly I can remember in my lifetime, and I turned 47 on Tuesday, that's frightening. But in my lifetime, I can't remember a more important time for sport. Yes, we can't go to the stadium. Yes, it's going to be different, slightly odd, but we need to embrace it, and we will get an awful lot out of it, I think. And it depends, no matter what your sport is, it might be NFL, it might be Seahawks, it might be Sounders, it might be EPL, NBA, whatever, Major League Baseball. But it will provide a few hours each day of good news, potentially, of a distraction, of a way of thinking about something else. And I think that role is going to be vital for sport.
Well said. So well said. And I think as you're saying that and you're talking about the EPL in your country, going through my mind the entire time is college and the NFL football hopefully taking place this fall in our country as well. I think that what you just said is synonymous with what we're hoping for as well as baseball and everything else coming back to our country. An early happy birthday to you. You don't look a day over 45.
Thank you.
As I say that with my gray beard and hair everywhere today, but
these filters are great. These Zoom filters are fabulous.
Isn't it something else? Yeah. I need to tweak it a little bit. Listen, stay healthy with you and yours. Happy birthday. You're missed here in Seattle greatly, but we look forward to it. Real quick, when are you guys going to be on TV, NBC Sports? When
so June the 17th is a Wednesday. We've got a couple of games that day, which are catch-up games. So that'll be on, I think, 10 a.m. and 12 noon.
Okay.
We think NBCSN, but we need to get all this rubber stamped. And then the first round of games are that weekend, but they will be staggered. There'll be 4 on a Saturday, I think 1 on a Friday, 4 Saturday, 4 Sunday, 1 Monday. So we're going to be pretty busy. And
we'll get your schedule and get that posted and get everybody watching as well. So Arlo, thank you so much. I really appreciate you joining us, and take care over there, all right?
Always a pleasure, Ian. Thanks very much. And hi again to everyone in Seattle. I miss you.